What is up, YouTube? My name is Evan, and today we are going back into Standard with a really exciting deck. It is Mew, and it's Mew Eon is what I'm calling it. It goes by a bunch of different names, I think, for now. But it's basically Mew in combination with Jolteon EX and Glaceon EX. This new Mew is an incredibly good card from Fates Collide. Arguably the best card of the set. It's a 50 HP basic Pokemon. It has free retreat, which is quite useful. And it does have an attack that allows you to search your deck for a Pokemon and put it into your hand for one colorless, but that's not really the hook. The hook here is that much like its predecessor Mew EX, its ability lets it copy the attacks of other Pokemon. But since we're looking at a basic Pokemon here, obviously it's not quite the same. It actually copies only the attacks of your Pokemon and your basic Pokemon only. But that said, there are lots of amazing things to copy, and it allows you to basically take advantage of the fact that you're having a non-EX Pokemon use EX attacks, and you can also take advantage of Dimension Valley. So we are running 4 Mew in here, and the idea is we can really take advantage of the attacks of Jolteon EX and Glaceon EX this way. Main reason being that they still can't really damage the Mew, and if they manage to get around it somehow or try to knock it out, it's only worth 1 prize. Jolteon EX, of course, for those who aren't acquainted yet, has free retreat. It does have a little swift attack, which is okay, but its Flash Ray is the big attraction, which when you fire it, it deals 70 damage, and it prevents all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon, which obviously covers a lot of things. Most of the EXs you see getting played are not the Megas, they're just basic Pokemon. So that blocks those Pokemon. It also blocks virtually every attacker in Night March, things like that. And it blocks all their, it blocks the whole attack. It's amazing. They just can't touch you. And then Glaceon here has a little bit more HP, does have a retreat cost. We have a way around that, so that's not a big deal. Second Bite is an okay attack, but we're virtually always going to fire its Crystal Ray when necessary, which is basically the same as Flash Ray, only it blocks damage from evolved Pokemon. So things like Vespiquen, for example, are things you're definitely going to want to hit with Glaceon. And of course, Megas are evolved Pokemon, so Glaceon can stop those. Between the two of these on a single Pokemon, that can be incredibly difficult for your opponents to stop. Now, I do have one other Pokemon who makes an interesting addition to the deck, and that is Jirachi. Its Stardust attack is only 1 colorless, it takes off special energies, and makes you invulnerable in the next turn to anything. Doesn't matter whether it's a basic or an evolution or not. And what's particularly cool about Jirachi is that if you're copying its attack with Mew and you have Dimension Valley out, you can actually attack for no energy whatsoever. So it kind of gives you a cool alternative if you're really tight on energy, or you want to commit energy to powering something else up. Now, support-wise, we're running Hoopa EX because this guy can go get a number of support mons and you can get your Jolteon and Glaceon at the same time. So an excellent support mon there. And we're running 2 Shaman EX because we can search them with Hoopa and we can get them with Ultra Ball, and we're actually running Pokemon Fan Club as well. We want to fill our bench with Shamans, and it's not really going to be necessary in this build, so 2 is quite enough. We have 1 Manaphy. This can help us get around people trying to break our combo by Lysandering in Glaceon EX and possibly Hoopa. This way, all we have to do is attach a single water energy, and they can retreat out for free. And if you feel like you need it, this can be a Pokemon you get with Hoopa, or you can kind of save it for later in the game to surprise your opponent and basically waste that Lysander turn they were trying to use. And our last Pokemon is we are running 1 copy of Smeargle. We want to use this because we are going to be using Max Elixir to get energies onto our Pokemon quickly. And with Second Coat, we can switch if we didn't get quite the right energy on our Mew or something like that, and we can turn it into the correct energy. So even if we kind of get a bunch of waters or a bunch of lightnings and we need the other one, this guy can always fix that problem. And on his worst day, he can be a 1 prize speed bump if we get a slow start. So it's all good with Smeargle. Supporter-wise, we're running 3 copies of Sycamore just because he is such a great draw card. Enough said there. I don't really need to defend that. We're running 3 copies of Pokemon Fan Club. Reason being, we really, really want our consistency, and Hoopa is a great searcher, but Hoopa cannot get our Mews. He also can't access things like Jirachi, whereas Pokemon Fan Club can get any 2 basics. And unlike Bridget, Fan Club does not care if it's getting EXs or non-EXs. It can get a mix of the 2, it can get 2 EXs, whatever you want. So this could be a very utilitarian card. I mean, early in the game, you can easily fire it to go get your Hoopa and, say, a Mew, and then play your Hoopa to go get 3 more EXs, including a Shaman. And that way you can just plop them all down on the bench, get all your setup really, really quickly. And of course, mid to late in the game, if you don't need it, you can pitch it to your Ultra Balls. Doesn't matter. We're running 2 copies of N, just another really solid draw supporter, and it kind of preserves discarding things when we don't want to discard them. Of course, in mid to late game, it can be very powerful too for controlling an opponent if they take a prize lead on us. We're running 1 copy of Teammates because if people do break through our combo and knock out Mew, this can basically assure our recovery by basically double computer searching. It's a great way to punish knockouts on our 1 prize mons. An excellent versus Seeker target. And if we've got control of the game with a lock and nothing's getting knocked out, then we don't really need to search as badly. We run 1 Lysander, of course, because, well, derp. And we are running 1 copy of Hexmaniac. You got to be careful how you play it, because it will shut off Mew's ability to copy attacks for the turn. But we kind of have to run this because some Pokemon... now, obviously, Mew can get around things like Safeguard Carbink, but on the off chance you meet something like Pyroar, we don't really have any other way around it. And of course, on your first couple of turns, you might want to block your opponent's potential to Shaman on turn 1 or something like that. So we do kind of have to run Hexmaniac to prevent like an auto loss in a couple of unusual matchups. Item-wise, we're running 4 Versus Seekers. Once again, just kind of standard utility there. We're running 4 copies of Ultra Ball, because once again, setup, setup, setup. We want to really get our setup, and that helps shrink our hand for Shaman, of course. Just like it does in pretty much every deck, those cards are just thick as thieves. We're running 4 Dimension Valley, because it's really crucial for making Mew go off for only 2 energy instead of 3, cheapening its attacks, and a lot of other decks out there do actually use this Stadium too. But play it kind of carefully in the other matchups just in case, because if you get counter-stadiumed and you don't have a replacement, it means you're going to have to commit an extra energy to your Mews to keep up your attacks to block their attacks, which is sort of the core of the deck. So do be aware of that. That's pretty important. We've got 4 max elixirs to help our Mew get up very quickly. This is the second energy, because Mew can attack for 2 energies to use either Glaceon or Jolteon's attack, because it's 3 energy, but there's a colorless in the cost which our Dimension Valley will take down. So your 1 attachment for the turn and 1 max elixir means an instantly powered Mew EX. And of course these can power up your Jolteon or your Glaceon as well. It's just to accelerate the energy, and we're running 12 energy, so we should be able to pretty reliably hit them. Our support is pretty straightforward as well. We're running 4 Fighting Fury Belts because just like for decks like Night March, you'd be amazed how often this can actually preserve your Mew. Buy it a couple extra turns if something goes wrong, that sort of thing. And it can, if you have to attack with your Jolteon or Glaceon, buffing their HP can be nice for decks that basically have the basic and the evolutions both in the deck, and so they're kind of switching around trying to get damage. That can be a good way to buy you a turn or two and maybe pick off like their 1 copy of Zoroark, for example. We've got 2 Super Rods in here. This is partially to cycle energies back in for our max elixirs in the mid to late game, but of course this can also put 1 and 2 of Pokemon back into your deck that end up getting discarded a little earlier than you'd like. So we have 2 just so that it's a little less likely that we might lose the 1 copy too early and then not be able to access it. We do have 1 copy of Energy Search. It's a nice one-of, but you can also pick it up with your teammates in that sort of mid to late part of the game, where this could be the difference between firing off an attack with a Mew and protecting yourself, or failing to, by being able to move the right energy around at the right time. So a pretty good tech, like I say, as we can access it with our teammates. Energy-wise, we are running 7 water energies, and we're running 5 lightning energies. And the reason we're running a little more water than lightning, obviously, is because we've got Manaphy EX, so we want to kind of exploit our ability to pick up those free retreats with its ability. So that's why we're not just running 6 and 6. I feel like this is kind of the way to go for that. And that is the deck. I encourage you to play it. It's a lot of fun if you like really control-y defensive deck kind of things, which, you know, maybe that's not everybody's cup of tea. I really like it. It's very much up my alley. So if you like that kind of deck, it's definitely a good way to go. It can be very effective against a lot of the decks from the previous meta. Now, will the meta shift to reflect Glaceon, Jolteon, and their unified coverage and Mew's potential? Probably. And even if it's not in this deck, Mew is definitely going to be here to stay and a very prominent force, I think, in the future, just because of its many combos. It's got so much power. I mean, and the free retreat on top is just icing on the cake. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here. So until next time, like, comment, subscribe, check me out on Twitter. Link is below as always, and I will see you next time.